Hey there guys, so in this video the purpose of it is to really just more give you a broad overview of what it feels like to work at Amazon, the feelings that we had gone through while we were there. I'm going to go ahead and start off, and then I'm going to have Catalina tell you how it went for her.
Oh, the day I break these chains, I'm bound for the life of the simple things.
Starting out at Amazon, I had actually heard a number of bad things like online reviews, and then like also some articles in the Wall Street Journal and actually Barron's magazine. So I was a little nervous about Amazon, especially after having done the sugar beet harvest where I hadn't heard so many negative things, and I really had a bad experience there. So going into Amazon, I was kind of nervous. The first day we had orientation, and at orientation they did a fairly good job explaining stuff, who to contact, how to call in, these kind of things, what the job possibilities were, what you got lined up into as the job that you were going to be doing, what the potential issues with that job were, and then also what shifts that we were working. That's what orientation was. And then we went in, and the second part of that day we went in and we did a tour of the whole facility, and we did safety training. So that was pretty well done, I thought, for the most part. You know, in some ways it was almost overdone with the safety training, but you know, it's better to be overdone than underdone, in my personal opinion, even though it kind of bored me a little bit, but I still think it's better to do it that way, the way they do it. Then the first week that you work there in the actual building doing your job after you're trained in it, and it's pretty detailed training that they put you through, so that was a positive as well. You start off on 5-hour shifts, so it's called their work hardening schedule, and that was really nice to help you get a little more acclimated to doing the type of job before you had the full rough hours of it. So when I was starting into it, I was starting to think, you know, I mean, all the rumors and stuff were like misplaced. I mean, they even made sure you knew exactly what your production expectations were, and down detailed as much as on your scanner that kind of noted what the work that you were supposed to do, where you were supposed to go, and what you were supposed to pick, and that sort of thing. It even had a timer, a countdown timer that lets you know how quickly you needed to get to the next pick to be able to stay on the expected pace. Now, some people would say that that's stressful, but I thought it was kind of a nice thing, just simply because it helped you know what was expected of you. There was no way for you to not know what was expected of you, and that's an important thing in my mind. I also had heard that they really ran you hard, and they do run the permanent employees harder than they do the Camperforce, so the work campers. We only as pickers had to do about 70% the first 2 weeks of the max amount that are of the expected amount of the full-timers, and we only had to do 85% of that rate through the rest of the season, which I felt was really doable. I did see some older folks that looked like it was really hard for them to keep up. I only ever heard about one person ever really gotten hearing much about their pace, and he was in the bottom 5% is what he told me he was told, but he was only picking at like 22 items an hour, which I averaged probably in the 60s or 70s, you know, an hour. So he was picking extremely much slower than most folks. He got talked to about it. He chose to go ahead and leave, but that's the only person I had heard, and it's not like they fired him or anything. They just told him that he needed to be at a higher pace than that. And when it's a third of what the average is, I can understand that they needed to be a little faster. So from that standpoint, I think the stories out there about Amazon were overdone, but I will say as I went along in the process, and the first 3 weeks were pretty tough on me physically, like just being on the concrete, partly because of being out of shape because I was overweight, and then the other thing was just it killed everybody's feet. And after the 4th or 5th day when we were into overtime, it started getting kind of tiring on your back. It was pretty difficult bending down to the bottom to get items at the very bottom over and over again repetitively like that. It did make my knee a little sore at times. It still was fairly doable, and I actually kind of was glad that it was physical and I had to do that much moving around, because it ended up dropping some weight on me significantly, right? So that was really nice for me. After you start getting that through the kind of the pain process, you start getting into where you feel confident in the job, you know where everything is and stuff, and then at that point it starts getting really monotonous and boring for you, because you're not struggling with anything anymore, and then just doing that same thing kind of robotic like gets real old pretty quick. More old than any of the other repetitive type jobs I've ever done. It's pretty repetitive, and in their process of removing the possibility of error, what they've done is they've totally removed the brain work from it, and your scanner that you have in your hand is pretty much your boss, and so that kind of wears on you a bit. And then once you get to that point where you're bored with the job, you start noticing some of the normal workplace drama type stuff. I tried to kind of avoid it for the most part, but most people weren't really happy doing it. And then some of the full-time employees didn't really like the Camperforce, just because we didn't have to produce at the same rate, is what I heard, from a couple of the full-timers that I was friendly with. And they were like, yeah, a lot of people having issues. Some of them think that it's taken away their overtime and stuff like that. So there's a little drama issues that you have to get through from that standpoint. But the work itself, it's really is doable. It was even doable with me being kind of overweight. And I even did well enough that sometimes I was in top 4 or 5 people picking on the floor for certain hours. I actually won little gift cards that they gave out and stuff like that. So it's definitely not something that you should be going in and being really afraid of being slave driven like you hear out there, but it's going to be physical. You need to be expecting to go there to work. I mean, you're going to really need to work. If you get lucky enough to do stowing, it's a pretty cake job. Have another video that you can check out about that. But yeah, why don't I go ahead and let you hear Catalina's experience and her feel and how it was for her.
Well, I knew it was gonna be a more physical kind of work, like sugar beets, and in the beginning it was a little harder. Sometimes we rotated, as I explained before, but it's still like the movements are different. They aren't the ones that you are used to do. Even now that I was trying to reach something from the cabinet, I would feel, oh, that's the remind me Amazon. Because they gave us really good tips in the safety tips and in the training, that we have to keep nose to toes, not try to make radical movements, but it's still like they are muscles that we weren't using. The job was as well, we don't need to think too much. It's more a repetitive movement, and just like the place that I was doing it, it was in the attic. Some days it was so hot and so noisy because it wasn't like a time that they were having constructions inside the facility. And then I thought, my God, we need to have a strong mind as well to do this kind of job. It's not just physical. I had to buy some compression socks that helped me a lot. Otherwise I couldn't have made it. And there is like the rates as well, that they say they start like rating your work after your 4th week, and then you feel like, oh, I want to do a good job. The most hard part was the physical, and when your legs start hurting, your back starts hurting, your feet. Other than that, it was a simple work. Overall, I met so many people, so many campers that we've been exchanging experiences. They are in Tennessee, some are in Arizona, and it's been so great.
So then you would be willing to go back and do it again?
Yeah, I am willing to do again.
We want you to get out there and connect with people. Live your big story.
Make sure you do something every single day to reduce road suck.
Peace, guys.
Peace and love.
And I tell you all about it when I see